Ready to live at the higher vibrations, where peace, love, joy, and good health are the daily standard? That's what this show is all about. Welcome to Vibe. And here's your host, Robin Openshaw.
Hey everyone, Robin Openshaw. Welcome to the Vibe Show. Can we talk about vitamin D today? Or what I call in my new book, Take Daily, How Supplements Hijack Our Health. I call it the sunshine lie. So vitamin D3, the sunshine lie, Big Pharma doesn't want you to see. I'm just going to give you some commentary from the chapter on vitamin D. It's a big subject and it deserves its own chapter. So the pill that promised sunshine. For years, vitamin D has been sold as the ultimate must-have nutrient. Everyone's deficient, they say. You can't get enough from the sun. And yet, here's a fact that would never fit on a bottle label. Vitamin D3 in most supplements is literally the same chemical used as rat poison by some brands. It's literally the active ingredient. It's not an exaggeration. Not all rodenticides use cholecalciferol. Okay, I like to call what you think of as vitamin D, I call it cholecalciferol because that's what it's not a vitamin and it's not what your body makes in contact with the sun. Okay, it's the identical compound that's found in your capsules and drops that you think of as a vitamin. Eat it, it causes calcium to flood into their blood, calcifying their organs and leading to death within a week. Okay, you're a lot bigger, so in humans, high or prolonged doses can trigger the same biological chain reaction, calcium leaching from your bones into your bloodstream, other minerals, creating kidney stones, heart irregularities, and soft tissue calcification. It just doesn't kill you in a week like it does for a mouse. But the industry vitamin is, biologically speaking, actually a steroidal hormone. It's a drug nutrient, and especially at high levels, it's toxic. Most of your functional medicine doctors are so unaware of this that if you complain of being unwell after your initial dose, the next step is, incredibly, to increase your dose. It's a manufactured deficiency. Why are nearly all of us told that we're deficient? Because the testing itself is engineered to make you look deficient. Labs measure your blood for 25D, a storage form of vitamin D, not the 125D form that your body actually uses. Okay, most people don't get that lab test. That's like measuring for just 25D is like measuring the flour in the canister on your kitchen counter instead of the much more flour in the pantry and the bread on the table and the flour and the bread in the fridge, and then saying that you're starving because that's all that was looked at is the flour that's in the canister on your counter. By redefining normal vitamin D levels every now and then, the industry created a self-perpetuating market. Over 80% of Americans are told they're low, guaranteeing billions in annual supplement sales. Augmenting the fiction, low 25D levels do actually correspond to poorer health. And this is where people get captivated by this narrative and they'll argue for it. I have really smart colleagues who, because low 25D levels do correspond to people who are in poorer health and higher 25D levels do correspond to people with better health, they'll argue with me about it, but there's always that difficult explanation with people that correlation and causation aren't the same thing. So it leads a lot of smart people to assume that one caused the other. By the way, many people who take cholecalciferol pills, which are falsely called vitamin D, whether they're from lab-grown algae or the vast majority of them are from the sheep's wool industry, many people find that the 25D level goes down, not up, after taking those pills for a while. The one and only time I personally fell below the optimal range into the 80% plus who are told they're deficient, based on the 25D lab test again, in the last 25 years, the one and only time was when I let a practitioner talk me into taking those cholecalciferol pills. And after I did it, I didn't even do it daily for a year, but I did it, fairly often for a year. That is the one and only time I fell into the deficient range. That began my research quest. I'd already wondered, why does this pressed white pill stand in for something that's made on the surface of our skin by the body in response to exposure to the sun? That had never made sense to me, but when my 25D last test went from optimal to suboptimal after actually taking this stuff, that started me researching that, on top of, like I said, my general skepticism about it. I'm surprised that I even bought the cholecalciferol pills from the practitioner, because she had just told me I was in the optimal range. And I said, "You just told me I was in the optimal range." And she said, "Well, it couldn't hurt." So I bought the pills. And why would you charge someone $89 for an office visit once a year when you could get them on your fish oil pills and your cholecalciferol pills every single month without you even having to touch it for the whole year in between when you see them next? That's kind of how that is such a powerful part of the business model for even functional medicine doctors. So, from sheep's wool to your capsule, here's where things get even less natural. Most vitamin D is made from lanolin, which is the greasy wax secreted by sheep to waterproof their wool. That lanolin is chemically transformed through ultraviolet irradiation and at least 10 separate industrial processes using solvents and stabilizers along the way. By the time it becomes that white powder ready to press into pills with a shelf life of many years, nothing about it resembles sunlight. Okay, less than 1% of vitamin D3 comes from lab grown algae. Okay, they're not harvesting out of some freshwater lake. They're growing algae petri dish style in a manufacturing facility. But the vast majority of it's sheep grease, regardless of source material. It's processed, it's bleached, it goes through all kinds of exposure to chemicals, and then it's marketed as wellness. So, the profit pipeline, guess who makes the most of the world's vitamin D3? Pharmaceutical companies do. Same corporations selling drugs for osteoporosis, autoimmune disease, and heart problems are also selling the quote unquote vitamin that can cause calcium imbalances, inflammation, and calcification, and so many other problems over time. It's a perfect closed loop. Tell people they're deficient, sell them pills that cause symptoms, sell them drugs to treat those symptoms. The business model isn't about health, it's about dependency. The false promise of it couldn't hurt, like I was told. When you question your practitioner, you're often going to hear, "Well, it couldn't hurt." And that's what mine told me the one time she successfully sold me cholecalciferol, right after telling me that my 25D lab test was optimal. But it can hurt. And it does. And that's because synthetic D3 doesn't act like sunlight. It accumulates in fat tissue, it stays for months, and it disrupts your mineral balance. The result can be fatigue, nausea, kidney stress, even bone pain, exactly the opposite of what we were told. You might not remember this, but D3 was brought to us in the 1980s, and it was put in our milk to strengthen our bones. That was the original story. Well, when a massive meta study reviewing 3,930 studies on vitamin D and bone health proved that taking this synthetic nutrient did absolutely nothing for our bones, they just changed the sales pitch. And now they say that it's good for immune function. The sunshine you can trust, your body already knows how to make vitamin D. Expose your son to real sunlight. It produces cholecalciferol naturally, converts it into usable hormones at the perfect pace. You're probably not deficient. There's a very low probability that you're deficient in it. You don't overdose on sunshine because your body regulates it, and you know to get out of the sun before you get burned. My mother is 82, totally sun phobic, and somehow her 25D lab tests are just fine, and she's lived to be 82. Sometimes 25-year-old athletes test with very low 25D lab tests. If the test means anything, it should make those who are low wonder what kind of dysbiosis is going on in the body and maybe detoxify or lay off the junk food or do various things to strengthen the immune system, strengthen the body. The truth is, most people aren't deficient in vitamin D. It's one of the deficiency stories that isn't true. We document which are and which aren't true in the book Take Daily. We did a lot of research on this to try to give you good information because you're given a lot of deficiency stories and most of them aren't true, but not all. There are some true ones. We're deficient in time outdoors. We're deficient in real food. We're deficient in trust in our bodies and our immune system. How to tell you've been duped. 5 tips for you. Number 1, check your labels. If it says cholecalciferol, that's synthetic D3, exactly what we've been talking about. Same chemical used in rodenticides. Due to the bad press, some rat poisons now use warfarin, which is a human blood thinning drug, which will also kill rodents. There's a lot of ways to kill rodents, it turns out. Number 2 tip for you, how to tell you've been duped. Question the test itself. Ask your doctor which form was measured, 25D or 125D. And if you're worried you're the 1 in 200 who actually are deficient, you need both tests for anybody to say that definitively. And you need a practitioner who knows how to evaluate both tests. There aren't many. And also, the 125D test is kind of hard to administer because it involves freezing your blood. And on the other end, they have to thaw it and measure it within a certain window of time. So that test is just kind of a pain. And it's not as cheap as the 25D test. So that's probably how it ended up that they just kind of do the lazy thing, run the 25D lab test and call it your vitamin D levels, even though that's really not accurate. Number 3 how to tell you've been duped. Rethink the deficiency narrative. Low numbers on a flawed test don't mean disease. Number 4, get your sunlight naturally. 10 minutes of sun a few times a week is probably plenty. It's all I do, and I'm always in the optimal range. Number 5, listen to your intuition. If your supplement doesn't make sense, it probably isn't right for you. If it says cholecalciferol on the bottle, everything you've just read or heard here applies. I hope you'll read the whole chapter though, because this is a difficult one to get through to people in a 10-minute podcast or in a blog post. The whole vitamin D thing is kind of front to back problematic, starting with the lab. So the takeaway is vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's a pharmaceutical product with a story. The story that the supplement industry tells you to keep you buying, fearing, and trusting bottles over biology is it's time to end the myth of sunshine in a pill. The real medicine is still free, available, and radiant in the sky every day. If you're ready to learn the full truth, you want to go deeper, you want to learn about more than just vitamin D, this was adapted from Take Daily, How Supplements Hijack Your Health by yours truly, Robin Openshaw, with help from Mike Fairclough in the UK. In the audio version, he reads every other chapter, which is pretty fun to listen to his British accent. And we expose how the vitamin D deficiency myth became one of the most profitable fictions in modern health. So we'll give you a link to get the book, and I'll see you next time.